I'm Heidi Przybyla.
And I'm Mark Halperin. With all due respect to Donald Trump, maybe take a day off sometime. On our trading floor tonight, the billionaire rants. Puerto Rico is billions in debt, and Hillary's got some money quotes. But first, $1 million. The 527 outfit backing John Kasich's presidential bid is going up on New Hampshire and Boston TV starting tomorrow. In the Granite State, a seven-figure ad buy this early in the process is what's known as some real sticky syrup. Here then, in full, is that new 60-second TV ad selling John Kasich.
Move abroad, conservatives think.
I recognize
they should have
red
said something.
state, blue state.
They don't know what they're doing.
I have learned. Hey, what about us?
My dad carried mail on his back. They called him John the Mailman, and they loved him because he looked out for everyone in those neighborhoods. I learned something from my father. Do your best to look out for other people. We turned Ohio around, and we created jobs and cut taxes and balanced our budgets. I spent 18 years on the Armed Services Committee with some of the finest defense minds in the world. I was one of the chief architects of balancing the budget. First time we did it since man walked on the moon. We haven't done it since. It can happen again.
John Kasich's for us.
New Day for America is responsible for the content of this advertising.
$1 million over a couple weeks is a lot of money. 60 seconds is a lot more in some ways than a 30-second ad. What do you think of the messages being sold here on John Kasich?
You know, I think it's a good juxtaposition of him kind of cutting through all the noise of his competitors and aligning himself with the visuals of, middle America and kind of, just more of a Midwestern kind of message.
Comes off as nice, and of course there's been stuff in the press about how he's not always the nicest guy, although he can be. I think that the challenge which you see here that they're trying to address is people don't know his bio. The fact that he's chairman of the Budget Committee, the fact that he's got national security credentials, even what he's done in Ohio, it's not nearly as well known as some of the other candidates' bio stuff. The problem for me is it's hard to tell that stuff. In particularly, even in a 60-second ad, it's hard to tell people. You got to show them.
It's very hard to tell that, and in some ways, I think he really has the best bio. But look at who's already out in the field and who already has a lot higher name recognition. There are a lot of governors. Governors tend to be popular candidates in the Republican Party, but that space is already occupied. So I really see, despite the fact that he's got what looks to be a really good ad here, I really don't see the path for him. I think it's going to be very difficult. He's coming in late, and he's coming in trying to get onto the debate stage, but he's only running ads, and that's one market. They're going to be looking at all of these polls, national polls.
But if this moves his number in New Hampshire, and he's got to do well in New Hampshire eventually if he's going to do well, if it moves his number, it can maybe get him to the debate. But what this does is it says, here's $1 million to try to sell the story of John Kasich. That tells his story, tells his bio, tells his resume, tells his sensibilities. Not a lot of issues there, but some. That's their test, and $1 million now when there are no other political ads on TV, better chance to break through than come later in the year.
It's a strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump told NBC News today that he's going to win the Latino vote. That was just one of several combative things he said in his interview with Katie Tur as he defended comments he made about immigrants. Take a look.
I was so misquoted that it's incredible. I'm talking about the Mexican government forces many bad people into our country, and they are drug dealers and they are criminals of all kind. If I didn't bring it up, you wouldn't even be talking about immigration right now. I'm the most popular person in Arizona because of my stance. We don't even have a border. People are just flowing through like water. Don't try and convince me that there's no crime, that it's wonderful. Sounds good. It's a wrong statistic. Check your numbers. If I get the nomination, I'll win the Latino vote. You're going to mention the ones that do like Trump? Yeah, I'm losing some contracts. Who cares? People politically, they're weak and they want to be politically correct. While I'm wasting my time talking to you, which is, essentially one-sided, but that's fine. But while I'm wasting time talking to you, I could be doing deals on other things. And so I'm losing out on hundreds of millions of dollars.
It might seem as if everyone's jumping on Trump, but at the same time, he thrives in the spotlight. So, is Donald Trump in the barrel, or is he too big for the barrel?
I think he's still too big for the barrel. A normal candidate who's going through what he's going through, all these embarrassments about losing some business, these combative interviews, they'd be being creamed and they'd start to feel it. I think Trump's impervious to it now. I think his supporters don't care.
I don't think any of this, though, Mark, is good either for Trump's personal brand or for his party or for our country, quite frankly. These comments are viewed widely by everyone as inflammatory. Almost everyone is inflammatory, and yet he's kind of forced some of his competitors to go on the record with positions that I think, if they want to be general election candidates for real, are kind of untenable.
Yeah, well, and even the ones who've been most critical of him, with the exception of George Pataki of New York, have still kind of pulled their punches against him. I think, though, if you think about him and where he is in this process now, do I think his poll numbers are going to go down because of these combative interviews, because he's losing these contracts? I don't. He's going out to Arizona and giving a speech in the next couple of days talking about immigration. Again, a normal candidate would be in trouble with this stuff. I don't think Trump will be.
But what's Trump's real goal here? That's been the mystery that bedevils everyone from the beginning. Is he really in this to win it, or is he in this to build his personal brand? And if you look at what's going on with his personal brand, he's also losing a lot of these sponsorships, his NBC contract. So I'd be interested to see where he ends up when all of the dust kind of settles.
He's running to be president of the United States. Why do you think anything else? Look, if he's running for business, he's a fool, because this is not going to help his business. But I do think in terms of building support and in terms of dominating the conversation, which is part of presidential politics. He may not be getting the best coverage right now, but he's getting the most coverage.
Well, certainly, I'm sure he's getting a thrill out of the fact that he is driving the conversation. He's doing tons of interviews, getting tons of press and tons of attention, and forcing everybody to respond to his agenda.
There are two things creeping up. Donors are getting a little uncomfortable, worried that Trump will be in the debates, will be in the mix in a way that's going to not do the party any favors. And two, you are seeing some commentators who are respected on the right. Charles Krauthammer and Pete Wehner are two people who are saying not just the immigration comments, but Trump's past liberal positions, donations to Democrats, and his general manner is just not good for the Republican Party. Let's see, though, whether the candidates who have been, I think, cautious catch up with the donors and with Pete Wehner and others.
And the beauty of Trump is I don't think he cares about any of them. He doesn't need to worry about the donors.
Not so far. All right, Puerto Rico. Here's your cheat sheet on Puerto Rico. The U.S. territory has now about $72 billion in debt. Some 2016 candidates like Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush want to change things up and give Puerto Rico the same bankruptcy rights that American states have. It would help them get out of their current jam. One hitch, though, in that plan: Wall Street, the Koch brothers, and some other people don't agree with that plan because they think that would lead to a bailout. This situation is putting some of the candidates in a tricky spot. You can go to our full site, BloombergPolitics.com, and read a list of where some of the others stand. Heidi, why is this such a difficult issue for people like Marco Rubio and others who don't want to take a firm position? Puerto Rico should be able to get a bailout and deal with their debt, or not?
Because they are really caught between a vital constituency of the Latino vote, the Puerto Rican vote in Florida, which is becoming a real force of its own, that rivals and may catch up to the Cuban vote. And on the other hand, Wall Street. And like you mentioned, folks like the Koch brothers who hate this and think that it's just a reward for financial irresponsibility.
Yeah, I mean, there's some principle here, and it's also not unlike the situation going on still in Greece, which is, do you want to let people have a bailout? We have let the states have that option. In the case of Puerto Rico, it's a little bit of a quirk in the law. But I think you see the pressure point, I think most clearly in Hillary Clinton, who supports this move, but does say we can't have a bailout out of it, which is, of course, the whole point of
right. And she's had to walk a finer line on it. O'Malley and Bernie, this is an easy one for them. But for folks like Hillary and a lot of the Republicans who are courting the Wall Street donors and the big donors who are watching this closely and for whom this matters, frankly, a lot more than the Greek situation because it is so close to home.
Yeah, I think in the end you're going to see how people have to take a position. There are going to be votes in the House and the Senate. Chuck Schumer's driving a bill pretty hard, but I think Marco Rubio is the one who faces the most cross pressure between Tea Partiers and, of course, his Florida constituents.
Yesterday on the education circuit, Marco Rubio whipped out the pump, and today it's Martin O'Malley with the circumstance. Rubio wants students to pitch themselves to investors who can pay for their education in return for a share of their future earnings. O'Malley wants debt-free college access within 5 years for all students. So, Mark, which plan will be a bigger political winner? Well,
I think young people tend to like the kind of plan O'Malley's offering, but I give Rubio credit. He wrote about this in his book, and he is making an effort to be a reformer on education and to look for market-oriented ideas to how to change things. I think both these guys are talking about education, not just because they know voters care about it, but they both have a great fingertip feel for it. They both have a good sense of how to speak aspirationally about education. I think they're both going to do well with these issues. I think others would be smart to follow their lead.
I think Rubio is especially intriguing because I don't know that many people are paying attention to this, but he's kind of preempting Jeb Bush, who has made the opportunity gap really an organizing force in his campaign, but hasn't come out with anything really specific yet on how to address that. And Rubio's idea, I don't know if it would work, but it sounds fresh, it sounds new, and it sounds like it's something that is in his wheelhouse and that would appeal to Republican voters because it is market-based and it might be appeal to young voters too.
I agree. Look, if O'Malley has a path here and he needs a second act, it's talking about education, one of his big issues in Maryland. The thing about Jeb Bush is he did give 2 speeches on education in the context of his thinking about running for president. Can he, because of all the pushback on Common Core, catch up to Rubio in being visible on this issue? It's going to be fascinating to see. But as I said, I think both these guys, younger guys who understand the aspirations of the working class, the middle class on education, I think both did themselves a lot of good in the last 2 days.
And it is the issue for millennial voters when you look at the debt load that they're coming out of school with.
All right, coming up, our friend Jonathan Martin, a national political correspondent for the New York Times, joins us to talk about Scott Walker's top political advisor, Scott Walker, after this word from our sponsors. Our guest tonight, your guest tonight, Jonathan Martin, national political correspondent for the New York Times. His latest story, going viral as usual, is about Scott Walker getting great political advice from a man named Scott Walker. Jonathan Martin, thanks for coming back. So lots of candidates are, into politics. Bill Clinton was into politics. George Bush was somewhat into it. Barack Obama. Is Walker more of a micromanager, more of a hands-on guy than even those guys were in terms of his campaign?
I mean, I think his life has been dominated more by campaigns and elections than those two who, each had periods of their life, Mark, where they were not involved in electoral politics, and that's not the case for Scott Walker. He ran his first campaign for the State House at 22 years old. He's really done only politics for his entire adult life, and even in college, he was very actively engaged in campus politics. So this is who he is.
Well, okay, so I take your point. Obama and Bush were sometimes not in politics, but does that make him like Bill Clinton, who was involved in politics early on and ran a lot and was hands-on? Is he more involved, more knowledgeable about politics than Bill Clinton? Or is it roughly comparable?
I mean, I don't know if he's got the sort of same gifts that Bill Clinton has when it comes to politics, because Bill Clinton obviously is a pretty rare talent. But there's no question that Scott Walker has figured out what exactly works in his campaigns to date. The question here, Mark, is, of course, can you apply what you've done at the state, county, and state rep level in Wisconsin to a national campaign? And I think that is what is so fascinating, is sort of can he scale up? And to date, it's kind of mixed, right? He's had very good moments. He's burst out of the gates faster than I think he even thought he would. But at the same time, he's had some stumbles as well.
And Jonathan, what's the downside to all of this? Why can't you be your own best strategist?
Now, look, I think it's clearly a double-edged sword here, Heidi. I think that there's an upside to it. For example, in my piece, I write that he's got this line that he's using a lot right now, which is he's contrasting himself with his rivals who are governors and those who are senators. He says the governors are folks who have won, the senators are folks who have fought. I've fought and I've won.
It's a great
line. That's why I'm unique.
But did he come up with that?
It's a good line. He came up with that line. That's his line, and so there's definitely an upside to it. He's got a sharp political mind. The downside to it is you have to play candidate, too, and that's also a full-time job.
Yeah, you can't do it. And, I hear from donors and some Republican activists who say he's not able to let his staff grow. He takes up so much space in the strategic side of things that he's not built the same staff as the Rubio team and as the Bush team. The other thing we want to talk about with Walker is this issue of immigration and the fact that there have been 2 instances now where it's been reported, and Jonathan, you did the second one, the Wall Street Journal did a few weeks ago, of the question of is he telling people in private that he's more open to a path to legal status for the 12 million or so illegals here, or is he saying the same thing in public as in private? What's your sense of that? Just publicly, he says he's against the path to legal status.
Right. I think there's no question that he has said things in private. It's been reported now twice that reflect somebody who is more flexible on the immigration issue, at the very least, than some of his public comments would let on. Look, I think after you've said in the past that you are open to some kind of a pathway to legal status or a pathway to citizenship, I think it's tougher to sort of walk back from that and claim that you're now somehow more of a hardliner, because people want to hear the former, and if you don't come down more clearly on saying, no, I really changed my mind, they're going to assume your old statement.
Right, but he's not the only one who's fudging his position on immigration. Marco Rubio, to name at least one. Do you think that this is a bigger vulnerability for him than the others who've arguably also flip-flopped?
Yeah, I think, Heidi, the issue is it's not just the immigration issue. He's also moved on, for example, ethanol, and he's had a much more strident tone on the issue of marriage that he has in the past. I think if you combine those three issues and you hold them up against a map, it leads you to Iowa. And those three issues, in the eyes of a lot of people, are calibrated to ensure his standing in Iowa, where he has become the early frontrunner.
Yeah, and, of course, he's announcing on Monday, and we're going to see at least some interviews in conjunction with the announcement. It's going to be fascinating to see how much he's able to drive his message versus some of these issues which are lingering out there. All right, Kasich, John Kasich, we showed at the top of the program this new 60-second spot. Heidi and I both thought it was pretty good. We're wondering what you think of it as a bid backed by $1 million to try to get his name out there.
That's real money, as they say, and I think it will definitely get him some attention in New Hampshire. And I think it's the kind of move, along with being on Bret Baier's show on Fox last night, doing a press conference yesterday here in D.C., that is aimed to get him some more earned media so he can move up a little bit in national polls to make that first debate in Cleveland, Mark. It's been striking to watch each of these candidates and how all of them are trying to figure out how they can move up in the national polls. Some do it with more national TV hits. Others do it with more early state visits. Fascinating to see.
Yeah, Kasich was in, as John said, was in Washington yesterday, and he is somebody who, let's be honest, the press corps just loves. He's a fascinating guy to talk to, and he's combative. We'll look a little bit at Jonathan talking to Kasich yesterday at this Capitol Hill press conference.
I was going to say about the party and the campaign, the two-term sitting governor of Ohio is uncertain if will be a Cleveland debate less than a month from now. And somebody who is basically known for being a reality TV star is almost certainly going to be in there. What does that say about the party and about the campaign?
Well, you judge that.
Sir?
I said you judge that. I don't. Well, but I don't have any comment on that. I mean, yeah, it's my state. They're going to be a debate. We're going to have the convention, and we're excited. And next year, we hope the Cavs are going to win the title.
Well, how would you feel if you won?
I've already. How would I? I'm not going to put carts before horses here. We have a month to go.
So what does he get out of being combative, not just with you, but as he often is with the press? What does he get out of that? Or he just can't help himself?
Oh, I think the jousting can be amusing if it's sort of done with a moderate edge, as it was yesterday. Although, Mark, as you know, sometimes the edge isn't so moderate. You know, the last thing that he said there in that exchange was, I was trying to ask him, well, do you think you're going to be in Cleveland for the debate? He said, I don't do predictions. I'm not Muhammad Ali. So a pretty good line.
Who's a pretty big predictor.
A line, Mark, more dated for the non-millennials in the press corps.
Yes, I'm going to ask the millennials who work here after the show whether they even know who Muhammad Ali is, let alone Cassius Clay. Do you find Kasich's demeanor there dramatically different than the one they put in the ad, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say, though, that he's the only candidate that I've seen who's got a different demeanor, especially sometimes when they're in Washington for the first time at, answering questions in that type of a venue. He does seem like he got a little bit prickly with you, but like you said, he's got a good relationship generally.
But that's
with the press.
standard, Kasich, and that's sort of how he's always been. And, I don't think he believes he's being prickly. He's just being himself. And if you ask him about it, you're going to invariably hear the other Kasich staple, which is, look, I'm the son of a mailman from Pennsylvania. That's sort of his go-to line. And it's going to be interesting to see how the sort of just folks, Western Pennsylvania vintage plays here in the
Yeah, they're all going for populists. Yeah. Don't you think they're all trying to do the populist thing?
A little bit, and he does all the time. Just, Jonathan, real quick, because we got to go. Do you think he thinks that he's going to be president now, or does he think he's struggling as an underdog? Being with him yesterday.
I think he believes he has a shot to be president and believes the race is totally fluid. And Mark, why not me?
That's right. Jonathan Martin of New York Times, thanks very much. We appreciate you coming in. Talk to you soon. When we come back, we got a little bit of Arkansas double-speak city right after this. Bill and Hillary Clinton, of course, have been political partners for decades now. Yesterday on Morning Joe on MSNBC, I asked Jimmy Carter to compare them as politicians. President Carter said, quote, "I think they're both superb politicians." Really? Hillary Clinton is as good a politician as Bill. Not everyone would agree with Jimmy Carter, but in her interview with CNN yesterday, it was pretty clear that Hillary Clinton has learned a ton from the master she's married to.
This thing's been going on for over 3 years.
This has been a theme that has been used against me and my husband for many, many years.
Well, that's your characterization, not mine.
You know, you're starting with so many assumptions.
That's up to the American people.
We're going to do the best we can to level with people, and then we're going to let them make up their minds.
We'll let voters make up their minds.
We are doing our best to cooperate here, but we don't know much yet.
I wanted to go above and beyond what was expected of me.
This will test the character of the press.
I'm well aware of the fact that it's your job to raise those, and we'll do our best to respond to them.
The Clinton campaign ended up putting a little bit of a rope line to keep the press a little bit back from her in the parades.
There is no credible charge that I violated any law.
Everything I did was permitted by law and regulation.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. Yes.
The law, the regulation did not in any way stand in my way of being permitted to do what I did.
Have we done a lot of good things with this money? Yes.
I am so proud of the Clinton Foundation.
I feel good about what happened today.
I feel very good about where we are.
I feel good about yesterday.
I feel very good about where my campaign is.
Sounds familiar. We'll be right back. Not watching us here and you want more Bloomberg politics, you can go to our website right now. Our colleague Sasha Eisenberg has a piece up about how Republicans are trying to cut the data gap with Democrats.
And our colleague Sahil Kapoor has a piece up on Marco Rubio. He's out in the field reporting on the candidate, so check that out also.
And I've got a little more on that John Kasich ad we showed you at the top of the show, why John Kasich is, the 527 committee supporting him is up on with $1 million trying to sell him in Iowa. Remember, this program is on twice a day, here at 5 and also at 8. Thanks for watching. Until tomorrow, we'll see you right back here. Same bat time, same bat channel. Sayonara.